Hello there, dear friends, and welcome once again to the Relaxed Fantasy Review. On this channel, we spend our time looking at fantasy of all sorts, from books to movies to video games, and applying the characters within into the tabletop game Dungeons & Dragons 5th Edition. Today, we're going to be looking at possibly the most unique character that I've ever made on this channel, one which I was pretty much required to stretch the boundaries of what is considered acceptable in the D&D world. We're going to be looking at a cartoon character today. Now, we've looked at cartoons in the past, but when I say this is a cartoon, I mean that in a very literal sense. Even in a game of D&D, this character would not appear as a normal human, elf, dwarf, as a normal humanoid. They are, in fact, a living cartoon. I am referring to Roger Rabbit from the 1980s movie Who Framed Roger Rabbit. In this movie, cartoons are considered to be different, like they're their own species. They are, in fact, their own type of creature that coexists in the world alongside regular humans. It was a pretty breakthrough idea at the time, but how would you possibly implement a cartoon into a Dungeons & Dragons scenario? Wouldn't that just break the whole thing? I say no. It will certainly make some wacky things happen. Let's have a look-see at Roger Rabbit. Now, as far as his stats go, Roger Rabbit is not a particularly strong or intelligent... He's not much of anything, to be honest. He is about 40 years old, as far as his age goes in the cartoon world, but cartoons don't age, so they're kind of immortal. Depending on his mood, he might be any size, any height or weight, but as standard he usually is about 4'6" and 50 pounds, but cartoons can kind of shapeshift at will. But, basically he's about that size. He has blue eyes, white fur, and red and white patches, depending on what part of his fur and his clothing you're looking at. His strength is 10. He's no stronger than a normal person. His dexterity is 12. Even though he is a rabbit, he's not that fast. His constitution is 8. His intelligence is 8. And his wisdom is 8. The only stat that has any real bearing is his charisma. He has a charisma of 18, since his whole thing is that he's a showman. He is an actor in the cartoon world, as many cartoons are. He has an armor class of 11 and 6 hit points, even though he is a level 6 character. I'll explain why in a moment. His speed is 30, pretty standard for his particular stature. As far as racial features go, I made him a Harengon, which is a race that comes from the wild beyond the Witchlight, and is a rabbit race. His alignment is chaotic good, and his class is Creation Bard. He is a creator. He is a cartoon that's able to manifest things, and Creation Bards actually have this power in D&D. It's about the closest thing you could get. He's proficient in dexterity and charisma saving throws, and he has proficiency in acrobatics, deception, and persuasion, and he also has expertise in sleight of hand and performance. He speaks Common, and is proficient with no armor and no weapons, although he is proficient with all types of gaming sets. He doesn't actually attack people, because he doesn't carry weapons or armor on him. He doesn't need to. As far as his basic features go, he has the hair trigger feature and the rabbit hop feature, which are both features that you'll find in any Harengon. He also has the Bardic Inspiration feature, D8 specifically with his level, the Jack of All Trades, and the Song of Rest, all which are standard bardic things, the Font of Inspiration, and Counter Charm. And as a Creation Bard, he has the Performance of Creation, the Mote of Potential, and the Animating Performance. These are all things that make sense when you read into them and you find that these bards can just make things come to life, which is something you would see in a cartoon. But this is not a normal character. he has one additional feature which I invented for him specifically, and this is the one that breaks the game just a tad. He has the cartoon physics feature. What this means is that he is immune to all types of physical damage and all types of magical damage. Essentially, he can't be harmed by normal means. But there is an exception to this. There is one type of magical damage that can harm him. Specifically, this is acid damage. Acid damage is one of the rarest types of spells in the game. Not many things deal acid damage. And it matches up with the movies. There's this special stuff called dip, which is effectively an acid, which melts cartoons. The only other thing he can be hurt by is a cartoon weapon. And a cartoon weapon actually is something that he has. Not that he carries on him at all times, but what he has is something called an Acme Box, which is another item I invented just for this character specifically. The Acme Box basically creates objects. It creates a medium or smaller object that looks like a normal object, except that it's cartoon in form. It disappears after 1 hour or when another object is created. This is similar to another comic or cartoon concept known as the magic satchel, with which a creature can just reach behind their back and pull out whatever they may need at that moment. This is the box, the magic box that Roger Rabbit will reach into and pull things out at will. If it is used by a non-cartoon character, so if someone wanted to steal this box and then use it to fight Roger Rabbit with a cartoon weapon, they could certainly try. But if used by a non-cartoon, the box requires a DC 15 performance check in order to function. Basically, I get the idea that in order for a human to use a cartoon box and to wield a cartoon weapon, they would have to tell a joke. Or do something silly, something cartoonish. That's the performance check. Objects created by this box have no gold value, but they do have physical mass and standard properties. So they act like regular items and have the same functional features, but since they're cartoon, they could be used to harm Roger in theory. The idea here is that Roger would whip out a hammer or a sword or something and start hitting people. Even with a low strength and dex, he's not going to do much damage, but with resistance to all attacks other than acid specifically and weapons from his own box, who's going to hurt him? He's more annoying than anything, but I think that's kind of the point. He does have magic, though, being a level 6 bard. He has the Friends cantrip, the Mage Hand cantrip, the Prestidigitation, and the Vicious Mockery cantrip, basically laughing people to death. He knows the Bane spell, Tasha's Hideous Laughter, and Charm Person. All of this fits in pretty nicely with a creation bard. You also have the Crown of Madness spell, Phantasmal Force, creating illusions, the Enthrall power, and the Magic Mouth ability. These are his 2nd level spells. And at 3rd level, he knows Hypnotic Pattern and Feign Death. All of these things put together, once you have his low stat, but his immunity to most damage, his interesting creation powers, his bardic magic, which is mostly geared towards changing people's mindsets, making them laugh, making them enthralled, making them who knows what. Cartoons do weird things, man. And this cartoon is certainly an interesting character, but he's been shown to interact with the real world before. Could you imagine being a serious fantasy character, a paladin, a fighter, a wizard, a rogue, and running across this enigma of a creature? A cartoon that you can't hurt. A cartoon that can barely hurt others, has these weird magics, and can pull these odd objects out of his pocket like they're nothing. What would you do with a character like that? But if you are interested as a DM or as a player in this kind of character that has all these weird powers, let me know down in the comments below. I'd love to hear it. This has been the Relaxed Fantasy Review. If you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe, and keep your eyes peeled for more character creations coming down the line soon. Have a good one, my friends.